Once upon a time, in a big, wonderful land called Westeros, there were many kingdoms, like rooms in a giant castle. In the cold, snowy north, where the pine trees wore white coats of snow all year round, lived a kind boy king named Robb Stark. Robb had a very important job. His job was to make sure everyone in the north was happy, that the squirrels had enough nuts for the winter, and that every child had a warm blanket. Robb had a big, fluffy direwolf named Greywind, who was his best friend. Greywind had soft gray fur and wise yellow eyes. He loved to chase snowflakes and play hide and seek with Robb in the big castle of Winterfell. Robb's mommy, Queen Catelyn, was very proud of him. She had long auburn hair and a smile as warm as a fireplace. She was always there to give Robb a hug and help him make big decisions, like what kind of jam to have on his toast in the morning. One day, Robb remembered a promise he had made. He had promised a very old man named Walder Frey that he would come to his castle for a party. Walder Frey was the lord of a castle called the Twins, which was two identical castles sitting on either side of a river connected by a big stone bridge. Walder Frey was very, very old and a little bit grumpy because he felt people sometimes forgot about him. He was planning a giant party, a wedding party for one of his family members, and he really, really wanted King Robb to be there. "Oh dear," said Robb to his mother. "I promised Lord Frey we would come to his party. We must get ready to go." So Robb, Catelyn, Greywind, and all their friends packed their bags. They packed warm socks, sparkly crowns, and lots of yummy cookies to share. They began their long journey south, marching through the fluffy white snow, singing happy songs. Meanwhile, far, far away, across the big, blue, sparkly sea, was a beautiful princess with silver-white hair named Daenerys Targaryen. Daenerys was not just any princess. She was the mother of dragons. She had 3 baby dragons named Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion. Drogon was black and red and loved to puff out little clouds of warm smoke that smelled like cinnamon. Rhaegal was green and bronze and loved to chase butterflies. Viserion was creamy white and gold and loved to hum little sleepy songs. Daenerys was traveling to a city called Astapor. It was a very hot city made of red bricks. But Daenerys noticed something sad. In Astapor, a group of grumpy grown-ups called the Good Masters were making a group of brave people called the Unsullied do all the chores and never letting them play. The Unsullied were very strong and good at marching in straight lines, but they never smiled because they weren't allowed to have any fun. Daenerys felt this was very unfair. "Everyone deserves to play and be happy," she said to her dragons. Drogon puffed a cinnamon cloud in agreement. So Daenerys went to the Good Masters. "It's not nice to make people work all the time," she said kindly. "You should share the chores and let the Unsullied have playtime." The Good Masters just laughed. They didn't want to change. They saw Daenerys's little dragons and thought they were just cute pets. Daenerys knew she had to show them how important kindness was. She told the Unsullied that they were free to do whatever they wanted. They could play tag, or build sandcastles, or even learn to fly kites. The Unsullied had never heard anything so wonderful. Their serious faces broke into huge, happy smiles. They were so thankful to Daenerys that they decided they wanted to be her friends and help her on her journey to make the whole world a happier place. They chose to follow her, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They lifted their hands and shouted a happy word, Misa, which meant mommy or special friend. Daenerys and her 3 happy dragons led a parade of thousands of new, smiling friends out of the city on to their next adventure. Now, let's go back to Westeros, way up north to the biggest, shiniest, most magical wall you have ever seen. It was called the Wall, and it was made of pure, solid ice that sparkled in the sun like a million diamonds. A group of brave friends called the Night's Watch lived here. Their job was to watch over the wall and make sure everyone in the Seven Kingdoms was safe and sound. One of these friends was a kind young man named Jon Snow. Jon had curly black hair, a serious face that easily broke into a smile, and a giant, fluffy, white direwolf named Ghost. Ghost was so white he could hide in the snow, and his eyes were as red as juicy strawberries. Jon was on a very special secret mission. He had to go and meet the people who lived on the other side of the wall, the free folk. Some people in Westeros were a little scared of the free folk because they lived differently. But Jon knew that just because someone is different, it doesn't mean they aren't nice. Jon journeyed into the frosty woods beyond the wall and met the free folk. He met a girl with hair as red as a sunset named Ygritte. Ygritte was funny and brave. At first, she would tease Jon, saying, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," whenever he didn't know how to play one of their free folk games. But soon they became the best of friends. Ygritte and Jon and their friends decided to go on the biggest adventure of all. They were going to climb the big, sparkly ice wall. It wasn't dangerous because the magic of the wall made sure everyone was safe. They used special sticky gloves and bouncy boots, and they laughed all the way to the top. When they got to the top, they could see the whole world. On one side was the snowy forest of the free folk, and on the other was the green land of the Seven Kingdoms. Jon realized that all people, no matter what side of the wall they lived on, just wanted to have fun and be friends. He knew he had to go back to his friends in the Night's Watch and tell them that the free folk were not scary at all, but were actually very fun friends to have. While Jon was climbing the wall, another two friends were on a long walk. Their names were Jaime Lannister and Brienne of Tarth. Jaime had golden hair like the sun and was a little bit of a show-off. Brienne was very, very tall and very, very brave, and she wore shiny blue armor. They were not friends at first. Jaime was grumpy and Brienne was serious, and they bickered like siblings. On their journey, they got lost and were found by some tricky woodsmen. The leader of the woodsmen played a mean prank on Jaime. Jaime had a favorite toy hand that was made of pure, shiny gold, and he loved it very much. The tricky woodsman, Locke, covered Jaime's golden hand in super sticky, gooey honey. Jaime was so upset. His beautiful hand was a sticky mess. But Brienne, even though Jaime had been grumpy to her, sat with him and helped him clean every bit of the honey off. It took a very long time. While they were cleaning, they started to talk and tell each other stories. Jaime realized that Brienne was one of the kindest, bravest people he had ever met. And he learned that having a true friend who helps you when you're sticky is much more important than having a shiny golden hand. From that day on, they were best friends. Now, let's travel all the way back to Robb Stark. He and his mother, Catelyn, and Greywind finally arrived at the Twins, the castle of the old, grumpy Walder Frey. The castle was decorated for the big wedding party. There were red banners, red flowers, and even the musicians were wearing red hats. Walder Frey came out to meet them, and he looked very grumpy indeed. "You're late," he grumbled. "I thought you weren't coming to my party." Robb felt very bad. "I am so sorry, Lord Frey," he said. "On the way here, we found a little bunny who had hurt his paw. We had to stop and make a little bandage for it. I promise I didn't mean to be late." Walder Frey's grumpy face softened a little. "You stopped to help a bunny?" "Yes," said Catelyn, Robb's mother. "My son has a very kind heart." Suddenly, Walder Frey's face broke into a big, wrinkly smile. He wasn't grumpy because Robb was late. He was just sad because he thought Robb didn't want to be his friend anymore. Well, he chuckled, helping a bunny is a very good reason to be late. Come in, come in. The party is about to start. And what a party it was! They called it the Great Red Wedding Party because everything was a beautiful, festive red color. They had a feast with red velvet cake, strawberries, and cherry juice. The music was happy and loud, and everyone danced. Robb danced with his mother, and Greywind chased the musicians' floppy red hats all around the room, making everyone laugh. Robb and Walder Frey became good friends, and they all celebrated together, eating cake and laughing until their bellies ached. So you see, in the big land of Westeros, even when things seem complicated, a little bit of kindness can solve everything. Daenerys taught people to play and share. Jon Snow learned that people who are different can be the best of friends. Jaime and Brienne discovered that true friendship is about helping each other, even when you're sticky. And Robb learned that saying sorry and being kind can turn the grumpiest grump into a happy friend. And they all lived on, ready for their next big adventure under the same big blue sky. If you enjoyed the story, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.